And welcome back to our ranch, AGFC. These electronic pub doors are back open. So come on in, grab your favorite snack, your favorite drink, sit down with us for a while. And here we go. Let's get into the back. And we got chats. We got chats beyond Jim Skin. I see you, my friend. Okay, now let me see. Hopefully this is going to work. Keep your fingers crossed, guys. Keep your fingers crossed. This has got to work this time. There we go, Mystic 22222. There's your link to come on back in. Oh, trials, and more trials. Seem to do nothing but want to play this live stream. And we got Mystic 22222 in the back. He's going to come up here in just a little while. He says, I'm coming in. Today we're going to go over and continue our lessons with Mystic and Revelations. So with no further ado, my friends, my friends, let me introduce you to our guest speaker, Mystic 22222. Let me get you on the right screen here. There we go. Mystic.
Absolutely on the right. I am always on the right.
Yes, you are.
Only on the left.
Oh, well, now that our first mishaps are done and over with, how's your side looking? You look good to me.
Yeah, I am good. My computer's flaky, but I am good.
Okay, all righty. Well, with no further ado, when you are ready, let's go ahead and get on into this.
Okay. So, we have shifted in studying Revelation to studying where we are in Revelation right now as we speak. So I'm going to start with some more news. In fact, let me give you.
Thank you, Jim.
Let me say, make sure I've got this in my clipboard. I'm going to start with the executive order signed on September 12th of this year. It's 47 pages long. It's U.S. National Transhuman Program. And it says in part that Americans must surrender all human rights that stand in the way of transhumanism.
Transhumanism.
Okay, you don't know what that is?
I'm picking my brain right as we speak. Transhumanism. Trans is to turn around. Human. Explain to me what transhumanism is.
Okay, trans means to go beyond. It's not about turning around like your gender.
Oh, garble.
Uh-oh.
You're garbled.
Let me move in a little closer. Is this better?
No.
Oh, boy.
I don't know what happened. You were fine. You were just fine, and then it went garble.
Yeah, I wasn't touching anything.
We are being plagued.
Yes. Are you able to understand me?
No, no,
No.
I can barely understand what you're saying. It's all garble.
Mm,
Okay, restart your site.
all right.
Okay, my friends, Mystic is gonna go out and he's going to reboot his side. And we are going to go ahead. I can hear you both. You can hear him. Try coming back on, Mystic. So, Jim, how you doing, my friend? I hope your weekend was, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I hope you had a safe weekend. You ready for all the kids to come up in their costumes and get that candy? We don't got many Halloweeners coming around anymore. Used to have them all. Used to have them every year. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to try this again. And here is Mystic 22222 again. Okay. Jim says he could hear you fine.
Okay. How about now?
It must be me. Hold
Okay.
on.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're
All
going
right.
to try this again. And here is. Go ahead and give me your auto, Mystic.
Okay. Testing. 1, 2,
Yep,
3.
I got
Testing.
you. I got you fine. I got you 5x5 now. That was my headphones.
Oh.
It was my end, my headphones all this time. So I got you on the external speakers, and hopefully we don't have any feedback, no echoing. We shouldn't. 10 4.
Okay.
Okay. Mystic says, Beyond Jim Skin says we are 10 4. We are 5x5 and ready to go. Okay, Mystic,
Okay.
here is Mystic's first link. Let me get this posted.
Okay, but don't start it just yet.
I won't. I'm going to go ahead and post it into the chat.
Very good. So, again, we're looking at Revelation through the news headlines. This has become the priority over even really understanding Revelation. However, we will definitely cover it. In fact, next Sunday, I think I've got more than enough material today. And so then next Sunday, I'm going to direct you to a couple of videos that give a very good overview of what I was going to try to show you, which is the structure of Revelation. And having said that, though, there's more than one way to look at Revelation, and there's more than one opinion about how that should be looked at. So I have one way that I look at through Stan Johnson of the Prophecy Club, who I trust very implicitly. What I will also show you next week is one of those hand-drawn animation things of from the Bible Project, where they give an excellent view or explanation of their view of Revelation.
All right.
And in fact, the Bible Project, I only just discovered actually, is an outstanding, massive work of explaining the Bible in every possible way, in as few words as possible, in plain English, explaining some of the words and symbols and things, but really they just lay it out so that a kindergartner could understand it, and they do it in a very short period of time.
I see.
So I'm going to incorporate some of their material starting next week. The first one, of course, will be the follow-up to show you the revelation the way I had intended to in episode 0. And then they have 2 more that are overviews of the entire Old Testament and the entire New Testament.
All right.
And then at this same website, in their playlist, underneath each of those are the very first, the overviews are the very first video of the playlist. And then they'll have another video explaining every book in the Bible in the same way.
Okay.
And you can literally understand much of what the Bible is about in less than an hour and a half.
Wow.
And you could cover the entire Bible, I would say probably a day or two.
Couple of
And
days,
once you've done that, a lot of what you read in the Bible just doesn't make sense, will make perfect sense, because it will show you exactly what it's meant to say.
They break it down that way, huh?
It breaks it down. Let's say the overview gives you the 100,000-foot view, and each of the individual book overviews are giving you the 3,000-foot view.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to start with the news. And we were talking about transhumanism. So executive order signed by Biden on September 12th this year. It's 47 pages long. It says in part that the United States is now going to start a national program. A national program is what it takes to have breakthroughs in technology that no one else can possibly afford except a whole country. So when we developed the atomic bomb, that was a United States national program.
Which
Biden has
everybody paid for.
Biden has just announced, not just announced, he has just signed an executive order, which is now essentially an edict, or a king would give you a proclamation.
Okay.
That says we now will be tapping the entire United States national treasury to fund the transhuman program. Transhumanism means going beyond being human.
It's cyborg.
Yes. Now, the cyborgism started, of course, with
Musk.
No. It started with prosthetics. So, for example,
You mean robotic prosthetics?
Yes. When you go beyond false teeth and hip replacement and
they have now, I was just reading yesterday, they have now 2 fully bionic arms, robotic arms that can be attached to the human body.
Yeah. Guess
And
what, Brian?
It's a neural link to the brain.
Guess what, Brian? We've had that over 20 years.
Well,
I know for a fact it's not even in some secret program.
I was watching it. It's not no clunky.
No.
With the clunky hand that can barely move, and it's not. It's smooth. It's fluidogenic. It's like a real arm now.
Yeah. Well, the very first one that I remember that looked human, a cyborg arm, a true cyborg arm. I can't tell you how long ago this was, but I'm gonna guess it's something like 25 to 35 years ago.
Yeah.
It was funded by a world-class tennis champion. He had the money, and he went to a doctor and a couple of engineers, and they worked on an arm for several years because he was a tennis player and he lost his arm, so he was out of business, but he had made his big money by then. Okay. Still, even if you're not a champion, The reason for being a champion at any sport is to start a big teaching business where you're going to train people, and people pay big bucks to have a world-class champion teach them.
Sure.
So he had a big problem because, of course, his insurance wasn't going to cover that, but he did have a lot of money. The technology existed to make it work, but he wanted one that was fully functional. And he had just been recently inspired by the $6 Million Man TV show. So here's how far it went. Okay, this is 25 or 35 years ago, somewhere in that range. Okay. And my nephew was the one that brought it to my attention because my nephew was on his way to being a California tennis champion, and we spent an awful lot of time in every kind of weather playing tennis. This arm, first of all, it was pneumatic power. It was powered by air power, just like today's air guns.
Sure. With
high pressure. So it was super strong. Okay, the arms you're talking about are still kind of slow. They are electric servo driven. They're not that strong, and they make noise when they move.
No. This that I was watching yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, there is no servo noises.
Okay.
There is no clunky, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's smooth. It's fluidogenic. It's I've never seen anything like it before.
Well, I've
seen robotic arms. I've seen robotic arms, many of them, and this is something that is brand new.
Okay.
And I don't know the functionality of it. Yeah. I don't know the operations of it. I don't know what it's made of because, of course.
Well, I can tell you what else has been tested that sounds just like that, and that was more than 15 years ago, and that's using nitinol memory metal wire.
Memory metal.
Which I have played with.
Metal wire, yes.
Yeah, nitinol. It's short for nickel titanium alloy from the Ordnance Lab, the Naval Ordnance Lab, nitinol. That's what the letters stand for, but it's called nitinol. Right. It's a very exotic material. You can buy samples of it. Doesn't cost that much in the samples. Typically, you buy a toy that has a wire that just goes between two pulleys. There's nothing to drive it, but when you dip it in some hot coffee or hot water and turn it a little bit, it starts spinning about 1,000 RPM.
Wow.
Yeah. So that is a technology that gives you the same kind of control that muscles have, and it's quite efficient. And because all you have to do is pass electricity through it, and as the electricity goes through it, it heats it up, and the metal is very stretchy and soft, like solder, like lead tin solder. Okay. But when you heat it beyond its Curie point, just a degree or two, it suddenly violently even snaps back to its original position, including that it unstretches, and it becomes like spring steel. So that makes no noise, and it moves very smoothly, and I've seen that done in a robot.
I wonder where they reversed engineered that from.
It was actually an accident. The Naval Ordnance Lab was experimenting with alloying shells to be used in cannon, and they were trying to find something that would not wear out the inside of the barrel and the grooves, the rifling. And so they were, and at the same time, they needed something that was tough enough to handle the explosive detonation of a cannon. And so they were mixing nickel and titanium, and they couldn't machine it. They kept trying to machine it to the tight specs that it needs to be, and they couldn't machine it. It kept squirming around under the mill. And every time they measured it, it measured differently. So that's how they discovered it, and then it got it basically got out from there.
Jim's asking the question: is that the one with the wire that is attached to the base of the neck?
Attached? No. Wire attached to the base of the neck sounds like a signal wire. I'm not sure what he means.
I'm not sure, Jim.
Okay. No, this is a metal that's usually spun in a wire that they sell for people who are curious about exotic things. They make this toy. It's just a plastic boomerang shaped thing with a big wheel down here and a small wheel up here. Mm-hmm. And it's floppy. It'll fall right off of the pulleys. And when you dip it in hot water, it tightens up. And when you put it, when you get it on the pulleys, and then you turn it just a little bit, when it's hot on one side, it's hotter than the Curie point of that metal's transition point, and it goes through some phase changes. And it's so what happens then is that it pulls harder on one side than the other. Wow. As it goes around the loop, it cools and it becomes flexible, and it goes around the other pulley without any resistance. And then it comes down, and then when it hits the coffee, it suddenly tries to spring back, and it goes from stretch to unstretch. So it pulls harder on the side that's going out of the coffee, or into the coffee, or into the hot water.
The hot liquid is what activates.
And it is that's right. And it is so super efficient that if you get the hot point just slightly above the Curie point, and the cooling is not allowed to go more than a degree below that, you get so much energy out of that, it actually looks like it might be producing over unity energy. It might actually be kind of a perpetual motion machine. Because the amount of heat going in, the amount of energy going in does not appear to be as much as what's going out. It's phenomenal. And so some people have experimented with that.
Wow. That sounds like that may just be what's inside this bionic arm I was seeing yesterday.
Yeah, and I'm saying that only because this is a metal that acts more like living muscle than any other technology that we have. Okay. So that's not what we're talking about here, though. Here's the thing, okay? When people started becoming interested, when people started getting interested in machinery that might replace parts that are better than the living parts, then they started imagining all sorts of possibilities. That is where the $6 Million Man program came from on TV back in the 60s. Now, before that, there was a movement called the eugenics movement. And the eugenics movement actually came out of the racial purity movement in the southern United States, which migrated to Nazi Germany and became part of their idealism. And then it became the eugenics program, which is the idea was to try to breed superhumans by carefully selecting their spouses. Okay. But of course, buried underneath that was the desire to kill off all the undesirables and purify the human genome. Right. Well, of course, that was eventually found out. That came out after Margaret Sanger. She was the one that really set up the whole program in the South, where they would. It wasn't just blacks; it was poor whites as well. They would round them up off the street, take them to the hospitals, and remove their ovaries and testes, like they're trying to do now. And when the public found out about that, of course, and they'd written laws to support it, by the way. That got overturned with a heavy hand.
Written law to support this?
Yeah, there were laws in the Old South, now called blue laws, but they had to be overturned, saying that the county governments had the right to do that against people's will, because inferior people aren't really people after all. See, it's just like the way they looked at the blacks is the way they look at everybody. That's the philosophy runs much deeper than racism.
Sick.
Yes, it's very sick. So anyway, that has come back now because that went underground. The eugenicists had to change their name. So then they started calling themselves transhumanists, saying that we just want to improve the human species by developing better technologies. And so then, one way or another, we're going to greatly increase the rate of human evolution. Is what they're trying to do, is evolve humans. And eventually they want to evolve beyond humans. So that's why it's called transhumans, beyond human. Well, so this last September 12th, a couple weeks ago, I'm sorry, about a month ago, Biden signed into an executive order, which is effectively law, 47 pages. Part of it says U.S. National Transhuman Program will now fund that whole project, including editing the human genome, creating people that are not human. And it also says, under this law, Americans must surrender all human rights, not just constitutional rights, all human rights, if they stand in the way of transhumanism. So if you object to transhumanism, they'll just come and kill you. See? So this video that I just gave you a post. Yes.
I tell you one thing. If they give me a bionic spine,
yes,
I'd take it.
Sure.
I'd take it.
Take it, but look very closely at the code that runs it, because you want to be sure it doesn't have a back door. See?
Well, it's in my spine. I wouldn't care.
You will if you suddenly start sleepwalking and go do things and say things that you wouldn't want to say or do. Yeah, and basically like, hi, I'm a Proud Boy, and I'm going to kill all the.
That'd be more in the brain.
Well, Elon Musk's chip has that. That's exactly what it does.
Well, Elon Musk's chip has that.
Yes.
But not the bionics.
Well, it is bionic. It's an electronic organism. You put this electronic chip in your brain, and your brain becomes an organism that has partly an electronic part of its brain.
Sure.
Okay.
That's if you want something in your head, though.
Well, yeah. Well, you might need something in your head if you're suffering debilitating tremors or epileptic fits. You know, there are people who have been cured of their epileptic fits and are now leading a normal life where they were dying before because of a chip in their brain.
What's going on with me is the nerves in my spine are being attacked.
Yes.
And pressure's being put on those nerves.
Yes. Well, you know that they can actually shut off the pain nerve with external power. It doesn't really take any electronics. It just takes an induction coil and the wires to the right nerve. And then
what happens to me is when I'm laying flat,
yeah,
I'll have intense involuntary spasms that run through my body.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just involuntary spasms and jerks and twitches that happen. Okay. It's excruciating pain.
Sure. Short term, I recommend that you try as much as possible to get food and some medicines for reducing inflammation and see how much that helps.
I'm already on anti-inflammatories. I'm already on all these,
including cortisone.
These I've been taking the cortisone shots. I've been taking the sounds like the start of a Mark of the Beast. Yeah. But you know, I mean, I'm on the anti-inflammatories. I'm on the nerve numbing agents. And they only work so much.
Sure, and that's why you need the electronic version, because you don't develop a dependency on the electronic stimulus.
No.
So let's go ahead and try to let's get to that video.
Let's go forward. Okay.
We don't need to play the whole thing. Start at minute 3:00.
Okay, hold on a second now.
This is a 9-minute video.
Let me copy the link again and let me get into YouTube. Get that searched for. Okay, is it the importance of King Charles III, the tribulation?
Yes, oddly enough. But we only need minutes 3 through 12, which is 9 minutes.
Not in our nation's capital.
Okay, hold on a second.
Sure.
Let me get back into the studio so I can get that shared.
And then I'm going to go ahead and paste the next link as well.
All right. This is it?
Yep.
Okay. Now we want
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes in to start.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, I'm right at 2 minutes and 51 seconds. That's close enough.
That's good. Yep.
Both Musk and also with Jared Kushner there. But even with Harari, he pictures that you may not even be a human anymore by the time we're done. And that's what this technology is going to do. But the other one, it's not just super longevity, it's super health, where they picture a world of utopia with science and technology and genetic manipulation. We'll be able to get rid of all diseases. And then the third super is called super intelligence. And I kid you not, Jan, what they forecast is with technology, they can improve human intelligence. In the 140s, a person is considered right now a genius. They want to crank it up to on the order of 1,000. But I like to remind people that sounds, quote, super, these three supers. But do you think that you and I, the average Joe, will be given super longevity and super health and super intelligence? No, it's for these global elites. And this is the man-made false, dare I say, satanic utopia that these guys are bringing to the planet. All it is, Jan, is a rehash of the live Satan that he used on Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Genesis 3 said, Satan to Eve, he said, "You will not surely die." The serpent said to the woman, "For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." So that's all that Satan has done. He has brought forth this lie called transhumanism. You don't need God. You don't need Jesus. Listen to Satan. You won't die. With this science and technology, you guys will have superpowers. In fact, I have these same guys on tape, Jan. They don't just say that they're going to live forever and have super intelligence and health. They literally say, and I quote, "We will be gods.
Yes.
And if you get in our way, we will kill you."
I'm throwing it now
Wow.
to your court, Mark Henry, because there's been an executive order, and the three of us have talked about it. The executive order was actually September 12th. Ties into what we're talking about, folks. From our president, well, he's very good at signing executive orders. I don't know if he knows what he's signing, but nonetheless, this is an executive order quietly getting Biden's signature on the document. Executive order on advancing biotechnology and biomanufacturing innovation for a sustainable, safe, and secure American bioeconomy. That's gobbledygook to a lot of folks. It's hard for anybody who's not a scientist to wrap their brain around some of these things that we're talking about. And you actually have it printed out in front of you, Mark. Give me your thoughts on, first of all, what Billy has just said. But again, here we've got another insane executive order, very lengthy and very scary.
Yeah, it's 47 pages long, Jan, and it's the executive order to accomplish exactly what we heard in that tape, which Billy just described to us. For example, under Section 1, it specifically says, "This is the policy of my administration to coordinate a whole-of-government approach to advancing biotechnology and biomanufacturing." So this interfacing of cutting into cells, human genome, implants of material changing us, Harari said it really good. They want to make something that's no longer a human. This is creating of zombies. If you think about it from a historical standpoint, if Hitler had this technology, he would have really been happy. But as you read down through, again, the 47 pages, and it's complex, but it basically says that the United States is going to take direct national approach. And on page 3, I'm reading, it says we need to develop genetic engineering technologies and techniques to be able to write circuitry for cells and predictable programs of biology in the same way in which we write software and programs for computers. So this is going to unlock the cell, the whole DNA, and actually to read down through the document, it's looking at the whole structure, the three-dimensional structure of your DNA. How do we hack that? How do we manipulate that so we have people with a certain IQ, accomplishing certain things, feeling a certain way, thinking a certain way, functioning in a certain way? This is terrifying. This is demonic.
In the article I have in front of me, it says Biden's September 12, 2022 executive order declares that Americans must surrender all human rights that stand in the way of transhumanism. Clinical.
Okay, let me stop it right there.
Okay.
One thing, okay, Biden, no matter what he signs, there will be no killing. No matter what he signs, you can't sign an executive order. You can't sign an order for people to give up their rights as human beings.
Under the law.
No matter what law.
No, I didn't say what law. I said under the law you can't do that.
Under
But
the
when
law.
you have a lawless one who is backed up by, or actually is a front for more lawless ones, there isn't a law I know of that they haven't freely violated without consequences. And there's most of what they are enforcing are not laws. We don't have laws. We haven't had laws for a long time.
But who's going to follow this?
Well, so far it seems to be the military, who should have taken these people out a long time ago under military tribunal laws. General Milley should have been taken out as the head of chief of all armed services for being a Chinese agent, for saying he would call China before if he was given the order to take any move against China. For down dressing all our soldiers and sailors and making them wear high heels, not doing any training whatsoever with them. Just on and on and on. That we're talking about from the top down to the level of judge.
All right, let's get back into it.
I don't know if
trials, safety standards, and informed consent will be eradicated as they stand in the way of universally unleashing gene editing technologies needed to, get this now, merge humans with artificial intelligence. Pastor Billy Crone, and you have produced DVD and teaching one after another on AI. Help us make sense of what I just read. We can't stand in the way of universally unleashing gene editing technologies needed to merge humans with
They'll have to
AI.
take me
Help us
out.
understand.
AI is
Yes,
the
and they will.
linchpin. It's the technology that enables these guys to pull off their satanic vision for humanity. They can call it the Great Reset all they want, which, by the way, is not just an economic reset. It's a human reset. They can call it the Fourth Industrial Revolution. All it is what God warned about, called the Antichrist Kingdom, the 7-year tribulation. I'm convinced. AI allows them to do what they envision. It's two sides of one coin. The first side, what they envision for the planet, is what's called the Internet of Things. And the Internet of Things will give them the ability, if they can microchip the planet, which is what they're doing, that's everything, including people, then they will have the ability
Microchip
to
the
know
planet?
everything you do, everything you buy and sell. Sound familiar? Every place you go,
Yeah,
whoever
pause
you
it for a
talk
moment,
to,
Brian.
your conversations, it's all tied into what they call smart city.
What does he mean? What does he mean by microchipping the planet? Putting microchips
Okay,
inside
so
the
for
planet?
example, no, the planet being everything on the surface and in the water and in the air. So,
Well,
for example,
But everything on the surface and the water and the air is not the planet. The
no,
planet is this
No.
big round ball we live on.
he's not talking about that.
Okay.
What he's saying is, when you look at your appliances, your common appliances, washers, dryers, refrigerators, and they are Energy Star compliant according to their little sticker.
Yeah.
If you do any real comparison of the energy levels being used by various appliances, that's part of what that sticker is supposed to tell you, so you can shop wiser. However, there's a very broad range, and if it was really that effective, there wouldn't be that much range, because if it was not saving energy, it wouldn't be Energy Star compliant, if that meant being energy efficient. There's a lot of appliances that are not energy efficient, but they have that Energy Star
Sure.
certification. What the Energy Star certification means is, It has the chips in it.
Well, that didn't start until what, 89? Something like that?
Well, the law that the FCC law that was put in place that said that all cell phones must track their users was 1999.
But I'm talking about the Energy Star compliant appliance sticker.
I don't know exactly when that started, but I do know that when you see that on there, it generally means there's some kind of a mechanism in there that, first of all, allows PG&E, or it's PG&E for California, allows your power utility company to selectively turn on and off your appliances whenever they want.
Yeah.
So, for example, they will command all air conditioners to shut off if they're starting to run low on energy. And they may well kill a few people who really depend on those air conditioners.
They've already done it. They did it through the summer here.
Yes, that's right.
Did it. I mean, on one of the hottest days, it was 108 degrees. It was 113 degrees, and we had no AC.
That's right. And that's why I have my own emergency generator, when I can take the whole house off of the net, off of the grid, same thing, and I can run my AC and anything else that I need on my generator. And undoubtedly, that has a lot to do with why Governor Newsom just passed a law a bit ago saying that all gasoline engines under 20 horsepower will be banned in a couple of years. Yep. And that includes all generators less than one of those utility trailers that you take to a construction site.
You know, in one of the countries that severely depends on generators.
Yeah, well,
everybody in the severe burn areas. Everybody in the severe, you know, when they do the rolling blackouts, you know, what are you supposed to live on?
Well, people who are literally on a lifeline because they require a CPAP machine or a dialysis machine or a let's say an oxygen machine.
Yep.
There's a special program, and they are on a registry to have their household not turned off. But the power meter itself can turn it off. In England, this is actually how they regulate their power, because in England, you prepay ahead of time how much electricity you're going to have. And then when you reach your electricity allowance, just like when you're filling up with gas and you put a specific amount in and you reach that specific amount, suddenly the pump slows down and creeps up to the amount you're allowed and shuts off. That's the same thing that happens in Britain, because their power meters know how much power they've been allotted according to how much they've paid. And when power is short, it doesn't matter how much they paid. They're gonna shut it down because you just don't have the power to deliver, or the grid doesn't have the power capacity because too many people plugged in their Teslas.
Right.
Okay.
That's funny. All right, let's get back into
it. Of course, there's a huge movement of people trying to move off the grid. They're trying to get solar panels, but solar panels are nowhere near powerful enough to drive a home, other than maybe you can keep 1 or 2 refrigerators going.
Yeah.
And that's if the weather's good or the sunlight's good. And then California comes down and says, well, actually, you can't use that. If you have a solar panel on your roof and it's in a grid tie arrangement where you're feeding power to the grid and you're paying wholesale, and then you buy retail when you're using power, and it takes a little off your energy bill, guess what happens when the grid goes down? You can't use the power from your solar panels either.
No.
Because that power doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the grid.
Into the grid.
Yeah. It belongs to the grid. It's the property of the grid. That's part of the contract you sign when you go on grid tie. So anyway,
so what about just doing solar yourself? What about just cutting the utilities all together?
I do have a few.
Putting your own solar power around.
Yeah, I do have a few solar panels for certain purposes. However, they're mainly for remote sites where, for instance, I need to control watering or fertilizing or something on automatic, and I can't run a power line out there, or it's too dangerous to run a power line out there, or it's so I'll use them for that. But the problem with solar is they are the least efficient, least amount of power for the most amount of money, and half of them have a strictly limited life of about 7 years. The monocrystals, they will last indefinitely, but they're very fragile and can break. The polycrystals, they have a limited life about 10 or 12 years, and they slowly fade away. And the amorphous solar cells are about the same as a lead acid battery, about 5 years, and then they diffuse and cease to put out power. And they never tell you that. They never tell you that when they sell you solar panels.
No, we
So
just had
it's-
our
So
first troll kind of come in.
what you really need to use is, let's say, a wood gasifier that turns wood into flammable gas that can be burned in a generator. But of
Okay.
course, if you can't afford a 20 horsepower generator, you're not going to be able to afford a 20 horsepower gasifier,
No,
So,
no.
so coming back to this, a world without law, the Department of Justice head said, yes, we've been listening to you. We realize that we recognize your offer that we can pry your guns from your cold dead hands. Your terms are acceptable.
Okay.
Okay. There is no law. There really is not, except laws that they hold against you, even if they're imaginary and made up on the spot.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next one.
Okay. Let me go ahead and. You want me to restart this, or you want to go into the
No.
next link?
Go on to the next one.
Okay.
And while you're doing that, I will comment on this. You remember that super rabbi that was mentioned last week, where Israel's top rabbi is meeting regularly and with all the other rabbis?
Yes.
And they're afraid to leave Israel because they're afraid of leaving the country for fear that they'll be missing the Messiah.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Okay. This is the Yanurka.
That's right.
Okay.
So they think that this may be the Messiah. A lot of them are calling the Messiah, and all the rabbis in Israel are afraid to leave for fear of missing him. Well, he reportedly performed 5 miracles this week.
Really?
Yeah. So
And
here's his announcement video on the occasion of his 33rd birthday, which is the same age that Yeshua or Jesus began his ministry. It's about 10 minutes long.
Okay,
And by the way, he refers frequently to Hashem. Hashem means the name. He means the name of God, whose name we dare not pronounce, like he's Voldemort or something.
okay, let's get into it.
Right.
לראות את החמה מאירה ולהגיד גם אני מאיר, גם בי יש אור לעם ישראל.
This is the Jewish language, right?
Yes. Subtitles though in English.
אנחנו לא יודעים מה התועלת שיש בכל אחד, אנחנו לא יודעים כמה כל אחד עצום.
How was that pronounced? The Yanukka?
Yanuka.
Yeah, Yanukka.
Yanuka.
Okay.
שבזכות כל הספרים הקדושים והמפרשים והמדרשים, כאשר עסקנו ולמדנו במקראי קודש, אדרן הלך, אורייתא קדישתא.
השנה, כמו שלו, זה לא יורד בכל דור. זה יורד פעם בהרבה דורות.
כל הצדיק המיוחד, מי שלגעת את כל המשלגים לו, ממש תורה מביאים כתובים, דקים, שמן, שמן, מחורים, זוהר, מדרש, הכל שבור בפיו, כאילו הכל מונח לפניו.
כל הצדיק, מקובל, מאוד יחודי תלמידה, שומר, זויה, רש"י, תעתי רצולה.
זה באחד גדול, זה. אתה מחלט עליו.
שבקרבתו, מקבל הרבה קדושה. מוכח מאוד. התורה גדולה, כל אחד זה לא הניסבן, וניסן. אין דבר שלא יודע. אבל נשמה מיוחדת שיורדת לעולם, להכיר את העולם.
מסתכל בנרות החנוכה, הסתכל עליי ואמר לי, היום, ככה בפשוט, היום.
הוא עשה בדיקות חוזרות והכל נעלם. הוא לא יכול לזוז, הוא היה הולך לקום, הוא היה הולך עם גב כפוף. הוא לא יכול, אני זוכר, הוא היה צועק, הוא היה הולך וצועק, כל פסיעה לא יכול ללכת לרגליים. נעלם הכל, ברוך השם, בנס, אין לזה שום הסבר.
אני אומר לו, זה נס, נס שלא קיים בעולם. נס זה מופת מעל הטבע, דבר של שידוד מערכות הטבע, שבדיוק מה שהרב אמר.
זה סיפור שהוא יוצא דופן, הוא סיפור בלתי נתפס. היה לו, אין לי מילה אחרת להגדיר את זה, נס.
אמרתי, הרב, אני מבקש עכשיו, הוא אומר לי, עכשיו, לא יהיה שום כאבים, לא ניתוח, לא צריך שום דבר, לא רופאים, שום דבר, הכל יעבור כלא היה. קמתי מהכיסא, התחלתי לרקוד, כאילו, ממש לרקוד, לקפוץ כזה ולהראות, תראי, זה לא כואב, אתה לא מרגיש כאבים עכשיו, אתה לא מרגיש כלום, לא מרגיש אפילו זכר לשום דבר, ולא ניתוח, לא כדורים, לא כלום, עבר כלא היה באותו רגע שהיה. זה נשמע כזה סיפורים בעל שם טוב, אבל כן, זה הסיפורים, סיפורי בעל שם טוב.
Okay. All right.
And then
That was interesting.
that was interesting. Yes, they're talking about laws of physics being violated, bodily structures being changed instantly to repair whatever is wrong with them.
Yes.
Now, the next link is from his own official website.
Okay. Do you want me to post these in the chat? Let me post these in the chat also.
Sure. Oh, yes. Oh, I post everything in the chat so that
Yes,
everyone can go and see for themselves, because not only can they verify this for themselves, but these websites all have their own links as well, taking people to all kinds of discoveries that they will find if they continue researching.
Okay. So this is the link we just watched. It didn't come through. Okay.
Well, just go ahead and start the next video, and
Yeah,
then
I will.
Then you can do your cutting and pasting behind the
Okay.
scenes while it
All
plays.
right. All right.
Have you heard of executive?
Hold on a second.
Mhm.
Let me get that shared. Now, which one are we watching? The main video?
Yes, I believe it is. I thought I gave the exact. That's his website.
That's his YouTube page.
That's right.
Is there a video in particular you want to watch?
It's where he gives his teachings. I guess not. I guess that's just post that in the chat for people to follow that up on.
Do you want to look at any of this main video?
Go ahead and play the main video. Yeah.
Order 14067? Most people probably haven't, but it could completely upend American life. You see, Section 4 of this order is set to completely overhaul our entire financial system, replacing our cash currency with a new programmable digital token. This would mean that all of your purchases, donations, income, and more could be tracked. Your accounts could be turned on or off outside of your control. In fact, I believe soon your physical dollars will be confiscated or will simply be worthless paper. This is without a doubt the most alarming development I've seen in my entire career, and I've seen a lot. My name is Jim Rickards. I've been an advisor to the Pentagon, the White House, Congress, the CIA, and the Department of Defense. I'm also an attorney, investment banker, and author of 7 books on currencies and international economics. When places like Fox, CNBC, or Bloomberg want to know what's about to shake up the global economy, they call me. Most of all, like you, I'm a proud American patriot. This disturbing prediction is based on my independent research and my contacts in the intelligence community. The good news is there are ways you can protect yourself and your savings from falling under the control of Washington elites. But you'll have to act fast because once fully implemented, it could be too late. And U.S. trials are already well underway. I believe we could start seeing these digital dollars in circulation soon. That's why I put together a presentation on the actions I think every American should take before that happens. It's free to watch, but I can't promise how much longer it will be available, so please click the button below to view it now.
Okay, well, I don't know that came from that site.
What was that?
That actually came from that site?
Yeah, that was the main video on the front page of the website.
That's okay, well, anyway, so what he's talking about, Executive Order 14067, that comes into effect on December 13th, and it declares that the U.S. government will begin to transition us to the Fed coin, the cryptocurrency owned by and operated by the U.S. government and the Federal Reserve.
They can't do that because, like me, I'm in a big boat of people, Americans, that have no idea what Bitcoin is all about, how to use it, and what it's good for.
Well, basically,
how can they implement something that's not educated to the American people?
Oh, they'll educate you. They'll give you apps on your cell phone, apps to run on your computer.
Yeah, but most apps that are on cell phones that are on computers, people already know about. They already know how to run a camera.
Yeah.
They already know how to run their YouTube or their Facebook app.
Well, part of the Great Reset.
Know how to do that.
Part of the Great Reset is to abolish all anonymous transactions and have every penny tracked. That's number 1 phase. Number 2 phase is
that's an impossibility.
This is the part of the beast system.
I got a dime right here. I got a dime right here. How are they going to track to where this dime's at?
They won't. That dime will be declared useless and worthless when they make the switch.
That's unconstitutional.
Of course, it's unconstitutional. They haven't.
Our Constitution will protect that.
What part of the Constitution have they not violated yet?
There's not a man alive. There's not a man alive that can change our Constitution.
No, they're not changing it. They're abolishing it. The Supreme Court is issuing ruling after ruling after ruling, and states like California are saying we don't care. We're going to ignore it.
Yeah,
and the reason they can ignore it,
states are going to say, "Well, screw California."
Some states will.
And then as soon as all we need is one state that says screw California and screw everybody else. No, we're not falling for this. our Constitution falls back into play and says, well, I guess we can't do this.
The
As long as there's
Constitution,
one, as long as there's one.
no, as long as the Constitution has no it has to be
This is why our Constitution
enforced.
is written the way it's written.
The
Because it
enforcement
cannot be changed.
is not going to be changed.
It can't be abolished either.
Well,
What Americans?
when-
What American? Oh, of course, there's going to be some Americans that are going to say, "Yeah, abolish it," but the majority of us are going to say, because we are what America is, right?
And we are not using our Second Amendment, are we?
Well, I use it.
No. Your Second Amendment says that you can carry whatever kind of armament it takes to take your government back when that's necessary. We're not using the Second Amendment.
Some of us aren't. Some aren't.
Who is? The Supreme Court's ruled, and all the blue states are saying we don't care. And their law enforcement does not enforce the Constitution. It does enforce red flag laws, which are unconstitutional.
I think when the chips fall down, the American people ain't going to fall for it.
Well, like I said, the Department of Justice said your terms are acceptable. We will pry your weapons from your cold, dead hands.
Well, then come get them from my cold dead hands.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Because I'm a true patriot and American. I'm saying you really want to do this.
Yeah, they do. They really want to do
Then
that.
they're going to have to take me out and put me into a powerful place.
Yeah, the biggest problem that the conservatives have is that the left is very well organized, and we have essentially no organization at all, Brian. And we can't organize, because as soon as we start talking to each other, the universal surveillance system picks it up, and we start getting SWAT teamed.
You and I are talking to each other right now.
Not for much longer on YouTube. See you on Rumble.
Well, then we'll be on Rumble, but YouTube hasn't deleted any of my files, any of my videos.
That's right. And everybody is invited to follow us on Rumble.
That's right.
I got a lot of things to say I know I can't say on YouTube, and it has
Go
to
ahead and
be
say you're on a free forum here.
uh
Our Ranch Air Gun Fun Channel.
this
HGFC
mission,
is a free forum.
this mission is to get the God's word out until I can't.
Okay.
I'm not going to endanger that any more than absolutely necessary. And I'm already way past the line, even on this one, because yes, they are taking people down. Now, recently, YouTube and Facebook have been forced to put a lot of things back up. Somebody's forcing their hand.
Well, good.
And it's not just Elon Musk.
Good.
But it is a battle. That's how wars go, back and forth.
As long
but
as we got patriots like Musk on our side.
Well, the Patriots and the Second Amendment are not the top or number one priority of the censors. It's this.
Well, let them try.
They're doing it in some places.
Let them try. I say Facebook, YouTube. If you guys can't handle me, I'm not. I'm just a little frog in a big old pond.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's many more of me than and who are much more knowledgeable and who have got a bigger viewer base. Trying to get this exact same word out, and they're not gonna screw with me. They're not gonna screw with us. We're not looked upon as important.
If we can say things that will influence people, we're important.
Well, I hope what we say, I hope what we're showing here is influencing people.
Yeah.
It's showing opening eyes.
I'm sending another link.
Okay. I gotta get this one shared. Man, it keeps logging me out of my chat, and I don't know why.
Big mystery, huh?
Yeah, well, Restream is, huh? Yeah, but try to stop me. Okay, here we go. Let me get this one up and running.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on.
So, folks, pay close attention.
So let me explain. England has a national version of the Olympics, which they call the Commonwealth Games.
Okay.
And it's all of the UK countries, England, Australia, Ireland, Scotland, Auckland, and the 2022 ceremonies announced the Lucifer's impending world takeover.
Okay.
It's 19 minutes.
Mark Bostic, my friend, welcome to the show. Welcome to our Ranch AGFC. And let's get right back into this. We got a question in the chat. I did not see before. Jim is asking, probably going to be another YouTube update after the last one a couple weeks ago. There was much messed up crap on it.
And Jim mentioned that they've been taking away change around here in California where he's at. They've been taking it everywhere they can here, and they just simply say, we don't even want to sell you something unless you can give us some change.
Yeah.
We need exact change. Yeah.
All right, let me get this started.
Sure.
Going to want to go look this up. And I give the full details completely documented in the second edition of the Antichrist and Cup of Tea. Here it is, July 28th at the Commonwealth Games, the 22nd Commonwealth Games for 2022. We have these every few years. They've been going on the whole time. The Queen Elizabeth II was queen. It's the largest set of international games in the world after the Olympics. And this year they had 72 nations and territories participating. Roughly, they estimate almost a third of the world's population potentially watching. Okay, the whole British Commonwealth. At this event, Prince Charles opened it in lieu of the Queen on her behalf. He oversaw the whole thing. He was there in person at the Alexander Stadium in Birmingham, England. Okay. At that event, a giant Molech bull, 10 meters in height, was rolled out into the center of the stadium to be worshipped and to face a large rebuilt right there in front of everybody, mock Tower of Babel with shards in it. And it begins with a star exploding in our solar system. That's how they introduced this. A lot of CGI initially. They portray a star outside our solar system, or maybe deep in our solar system, blowing up past Saturn. And it explodes a bright star like Lucifer. That's what it is, exploding. And its shards fly through our solar system, and they reach Earth. And they land in all the nations of the Commonwealth. And these 72 quote-unquote dreamers, New Agers, find these shards outside their homes. They retrieve them. The first person to do so is named Stella. She picks it up. It's lit. It's brightly lit. It's like a large quartz crystal. It's bright white, lit as bright white, like an interior light, as it were, bright white. She picks this thing up and she prays to it, whispers to it and prays to it. Then she takes this back to her home. All these others, these 72 dreamers, there's 72 of them total, including her, pick their shards up and they take them to their homes. As soon as they do, there are anti-gravity effects in their homes. Things start to float in the air. And then their homes are lifted up off the ground with these people in them. and they float across the Commonwealth from other nations and across the UK, across seas and oceans and lakes and forests and so forth to Birmingham, England, to be over the stadium. All these homes floating over the stadium, and then they land. And the Dreamers exit them in front of the audience, and they have the shards in hand. The bull then comes onto the stadium, pulled by slave women, slavish women on chains. The bull, they portray this, rebels and detaches from the chains. And these female slaves who've been driven like by somebody who's kind of like a Roman, you know, a demon, whatever. He didn't quite look like a Roman, are freed, right? So now the bull and these women are freed, and they pretend they're afraid of each other. And the bull goes on to the center of the stadium, and these quote-unquote dreamers, these New Agers, encircle the thing. But initially, before they do that, Stella comes with her crystal. She and 5 others, there's 6 of them, 6 of the dreamers, apart from these slavish women who are behind now on the bull, the other side of it as it's moving, kind of charging actually, into the center of the stadium. Okay, from the track from just outside where it's entered, you know, now detached from its chain, no longer restrained. Okay.
Watch this. I can show you how to get the sweetest deals online when you shop from major retailers like Amazon and Target. You can drop prices automatically.
Charges into the center of the stadium. Stella wanting to appease this thing so that they're not killed by this Moloch idol.
Where is this
Goes
mystic?
to this New Age crystal, approaches it slowly to these 5 other dreamers. She's got the crystal in her left hand, and then she puts her hand up to the nose of the bull, and it bows down so that she can touch its nose with the crystal in her hand. She's the only one holding her crystal at that point. And the bull is, at least at that moment, appeased. And there's a whole backstory to this, and they say things, they announce things to the audience, you know, about peace, love, friendship, yada, yada, you know, conflict resolves, slaves freed, all this kind of stuff. And as this is happening, the slavish, and there are multiple stages to this, so I'm going to be skipping over some things, but this bull kind of calms down. It's facing the Tower of Babel this whole time. And at times there are flames like the towers, like the flames of hell all over this Tower of Babel, okay? You know, and it's facing this thing. The bull is. They encircle it multiple times, and they literally worship it. They've all got their crystals in hand. They bow down to this thing. And then later, Stella gets atop it and rides it as the woman riding the beast. And there are then 71 dreamers encircling it. And they're bowing down to this thing, worshiping it, and literally doing a New Age worship ceremony with their crystals before this thing, and inviting the whole Commonwealth to join them in this worship. And who's overseeing all of this? Prince Charles. And then the woman's riding the beast, right? And as we get toward the end of the ceremony, and there are a bunch of songs, by the way, that are accommodating this with significant lyrics, okay? And I won't go into that, but it's all documented in the book. At the end, as it's getting dark.
Which book is this?
This is going to be in the 2nd edition of the Antichrist Cup of Tea. One reason it's a little bit delayed is I have to get this in there. It's too critical. Okay? Right there at the end, the bull is rearing back. So it's rising up on its front feet. Okay? And it's encircled by the flags of all these nations, the 72. They've literally placed their flags at the base of this thing. So they're not just worshiping it with their crystals and all the rest, and not just being ridden by Stella, you know, the one riding the beast. Now the tower is rising again before this beast. It's been built. And all the nations, by the way, their names have gone across this tower already, at this point been displayed on its surface. At the top of this tower, I told you those shards came down earlier from the heavens. This blown up Luciferian star, representing the devil, reaching the earth, falling to the earth. The devil falling to the earth, okay? And being taken up by these New Agers. So they all approach, they leave the bull now, but the flags are at the base of the bull, showing the nations are all worshiping around this bull, the 71. And I'm going to come back to the number 71. It's extremely significant. But at any rate, they all come to the base of this tower with their shards in hand, and they stick them into the side of the tower. And they ascend visibly through the tower. And as they get toward the top of the tower, they form this ball, the original star that blew up, reconstituted. And then it rises above the tower, and you get this huge disco-like ball atop the tower that's lit up very brightly, and a beam of light goes between that ball and the chest of the bull. Now it's nighttime at this point in Alexander Stadium and open air stadiums. You can see these lights, but they are portraying the rebuilding of the Tower of Babel in our day, with Lucifer being over it, being worshipped by all the nations of the world. And why do I say all? I said that the 72 dreamers were for the 72, they're for the 72 nations and territories of the British Commonwealth, right? Stella being the 72nd, she's riding the bull. Why 71 worshiping around the bull? Okay, how does that represent all the nations? Well, here's the deal. At the Feast of Tabernacles every year, Israel would sacrifice 70 bulls, not 71, 70. And Israel's rabbis historically understood that to represent the nations that came out of the scattering from the Tower of Babel. So they took those 70 to represent the nations of the world. And the way Christians and often the rabbinic community have interpreted those 70 bulls that were sacrificed, they would say, well, we have our God and we worship them and we do sacrifices on behalf of Israel. This is how it would be interpreted, right? So these 70 are for the nations. And oftentimes Christians look at that and they think this is a sacrifice on behalf of the nations, so that maybe their sins would be forgiven. The ones who don't worship the God of Israel at the Feast of Tabernacles each year, it was never that. That is not what it ever in history represented. So I'm going to come back to what it did represent in a moment. It did represent the 70 nations, that's correct. But the reason there were 71 around the base of this bowl is because Israel was included. You see, the nation of Israel came after the 70 at the Tower of Babel, right?
Interesting.
So now they're saying, oh, Israel, by the way, you're not going to worship your God anymore. You're going to worship Lucifer with us.
Mm.
So there's 71 instead of 70 at the base of this bowl, led by the woman riding the beast, representing, if you want, the harlot church under the Antichrist, okay? Well, what were the sacrifices really about at Tabernacles, the 70 bowls? Was it for the sins of the nations? I'm going to tell you no. It was their death and destruction, their crushing by the Messiah at Armageddon. That's what it really represented. When God, our God, sacrifices the nations like brute beasts, man without understanding is like the beasts that perish. That is what Scripture tells us multiple times. Those nations that did not worship God, that were at the base of the Tower of Babel historically, were not worshipers of the real God. They were engaging in paganism. And God scattered them to the nations. He brought a nation separate from them, a new nation, Israel, the 71, the 71st, okay? So we can look in Revelation 19, in Ezekiel 39. We can see that when the Lord is done with Armageddon, that the birds of prey come down to eat the flesh of the slain. Like beasts, right? The flesh is slain, like man without understanding. Sacrifice like beasts. How do we know that the world is like beasts in that context to God? In Acts chapter 10 through 15, in chapter 10, Peter was shown a scroll. He was atop a house, a rooftop. A scroll rolled down from the heavens before him. And in it were beasts of all kinds, creatures, crawly things, right?
Right.
Different kinds of life. And 3 times God said to Peter, arise, slay and eat. And 3 times Peter refused. He rebuked God. He said, not so, Lord. Now, almost in an angry tone, not so, Lord. Nothing common or unclean has ever entered my mouth or passed my lips, right? And the 3rd time, and each time God said to Peter, what God calls clean, do not call what God, I forget the exact wording, but what God sanctifies basically don't call common or unclean. That's essentially what he says to Peter each time. And at that moment, the scroll disappears. But the whole point is these nations that Peter saw were represented as unclean beasts. And most of the nations of the world, many of them, even to this day, have unclean animals, what would biblically be considered unclean to eat, as their symbols.
A lot of people don't know this, but the best way to get your guns is not by buying a gun shop.
Oops.
Like 97.
I know, Mystic.
So
I know. One
when
day.
these bulls were sacrificed, on behalf of the nations, in this case, they were symbolizing the Molech worshipers being killed by Christ at Armageddon. Okay? Man without understanding, sacrifice like the beasts, like beasts. And that's what we have. We have an attempt under Prince Charles, now King Charles III, to flip all that on its head and to get modern mankind to worship the devil with this ancient Molech imagery. to invite mankind to do that and to suggest that Israel is going to be a part of it.
Nope.
That was July 28th this year at the opening of the Commonwealth Games. So for that to happen, and then Charles to become King Charles right after that, King Charles III.
Yep.
Wow, the timing.
It's incredibly significant.
Yeah, the timing is amazing.
Oh, and I'm going to wrap it up with one other point, which makes all of this that's very significant even more so. You know, if you could imagine that. So, and I pointed this out, by the way, in the first edition of the Antichrist and a Cup of Tea. It's also been in drafts of my Messiah History in the Tribulation Period since the 1980s, some of which I circulated about 30 copies to earlier viewers in the early 1990s, okay? Before, a long time before the Antichrist and Cup of Tea was published. So I'm not just saying this now. I've said this from the beginning. There was never anything such as a revived Roman Empire. Doesn't exist, never existed, never will. That's a misunderstanding of Scripture. What there is instead is a revived Babylonian Empire.
Interesting.
So you'll recall Nebuchadnezzar's statue, right? Starts out with a gold head, and then it leads to the 10 toes, which are the final form of the Roman Empire, right? Babylonia was destroyed historically. Went away, right? But at the end of the tribulation week, what city gets destroyed? Mystery Babylon. That is the city that rules over the kings of the earth, right? That is the city destroyed right before Armageddon in Revelation 19. Mystery Babylon. That is the city that rules over the kings of the earth under the Antichrist, right? So what does that mean? There's a revived Babylonian Empire. And the final form of the Roman Empire, where these 10 toes, these 10 kings actually come on the scene, where the global government is constituted, that is nothing less than the revived Babylonian Empire that has come out of the Roman Empire. It's the final form of the Roman Empire, but it's also a revived Babylonian Empire. For them to then go now, right before he becomes king, and particularly if we're already in the tribulation week, approaching the Great Tribulation, you know, which if we are already in the tribulation week, that would mean the Great Tribulation will start less than 2 years from now. Okay?
Which
Less
is then
than 2 years.
Which is then 3.5 years.
Right. 3.5 years from the start of the 7 years, if we're in the tribulation week, and I don't know if we are yet. But regardless, for it to be at this point in history before he becomes king, to now say, we're reconstituting the Tower of Babel, we're putting Lucifer as the all-seeing eye, the king, over this whole thing, and we and you are to worship through Moloch, this bull idol. And here's the other clincher. Moses came down off Mount Sinai with the initial set of tablets to find Israel had reconstituted that bull, the golden calf. It's the same thing. It was the Apis bull of Egypt, the same thing as Moloch. For Moloch and Baal, you know, like Ra and Apis for Egypt, okay? Same thing. Moses comes down off Mount Sinai with God's commandments and finds Israel worshiping this thing.
Right.
Throws down these commandments and judgment follows, right? Disgusted with Israel. It's so serious that God is ready to annihilate Israel from the face of the planet and make a new nation out of Moses, right? And Moses intercedes and says, no, Lord, take my life too, if you're going to do this. Otherwise, why have you brought this people out of Egypt only to have your name, you know, mocked, spoken against among the nations because you brought them out and couldn't bring them, you know, all the way to the promised land. You had to kill them in the wilderness because they were so wicked, right? You couldn't deliver, in other words. If you're going to do that, kill me too. So Moses interceded in the ultimate way before God. And so God changed his mind and judged the nation of Israel, right? And ultimately gave new 10 commandments. Okay, so here, Moses was a type of Christ, right? So for the moment here, we're going to put Moses in the place of Christ. Moses was a type of Christ. You know, there's a prophet like him who would arise in Israel. That's the Messiah, right? Okay.
No.
So the Antichrist is a counterfeit of Christ.
No.
Therefore, he's also a counterfeit of Moses, right?
Right.
So here's Prince Charles. At the beginning of this event, the bull hasn't been brought out yet, not unveiled. The bull is brought out. Then these runners that have traveled, you know, these athletes that have traveled through all the nations the prior year, bring this baton, which is shaped like a torch, to Prince Charles. And this is after all this stuff has happened around this ball. And Prince Charles has been overseeing the whole thing. They bring this torch, and they open the top of the torch, and a little scroll is pulled out of the torch.
Oh, geez.
And the lady who's over the Commonwealth Games unscrolls it, hands it to Prince Charles, and he reads it as a message from his mother to bless the event. This is like the Ten Commandments. This is the counterfeit in this case. Moses coming off the mountain, Prince Charles overseeing this event. Moses seeing Israel worshiping the golden calf and being furious, casting down the Ten Commandments. Prince Charles seeing the nations worshiping the Molech ball. Not being furious, saying, oh, hey, let me bless this from the queen. And right after that is when the bull raises up on its heel. The tower is fully raised. The all-seeing eye of Lucifer is reconstituted over the thing. And the beam of light goes between the bull's chest and that ball over the tower, the all-seeing eye. Prince Charles oversaw that whole thing. It's like saying, now you can worship the devil. And we'll achieve our aim of finally building the Tower of Babel and putting Lucifer as our God, our king.
Mm-mm. Is that it?
Yeah, so this is the ceremony of the Khazarian Mafia.
If you stick around for just 15 seconds.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Let me get at that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow.
Well, I'm going to amend what he said. This is not the reconstitution of the Babylonian Empire. The Babylonian Empire never actually left. It just went underground and into the shadows. It has been running the kings and queens of the world since Babylon. And they are, this is the coming out ceremony, out of the closet, because they've always been in hiding before. We still don't know the names of these people. We just know what they do. But these sacrifices, they never stopped those sacrifices. And Mystery Babylon, as he said, it is in that. And it is correctly said to be in New York City, the Twin Towers, the World Trade Organization, the World Economic Federation, all of those things. It's in Hollywood. And all of the things that the Khazarians have done, they are doing in those places as well. The Khazarians started in Kazakhstan, and then they moved to what we now call the Ukraine, and that's their true home, which is the reason why Russia is trying to destroy it, because Russia lived under their communism for 80 years. And their true headquarters for operations is in Switzerland.
Okay.
None of these you're going to learn about in the news, of course. But
No.
now it's coming out in the open. And again, this is a strong indicator that we haven't started the 7-year countdown. It's got to start next year, but I don't see how it can. I don't think we can get past this year and not actually be in that part of the tribulation in the beginning. World War III is definitely tribulation.
Oh, World War III, yes. Yeah, it's definitely in tribulation.
Yeah, it's the early...
And we're on the brink.
Yeah. It's early tribulation, it's the lesser tribulation, and the greater tribulation starts in 3.5 years.
I truly feel we are teetering. We're just teetering on the edge.
Yeah.
Is it that we're and the nuclear ball going to fall off that edge here real soon.
Well, if it is the tribulation, it started at the end of the fall feasts this year, which was a couple weeks ago, with Feast of Trumpets, Day of Reckoning. So that's looks like we're 2 hours in, and we only made it halfway through my program. That was just the news. We are here, folks.
Yep. Well, we always got next Sunday.
I sure hope so. I'm not counting on that.
Why?
I'm pushing this as hard and fast as I can on the assumption that we don't.
Whether it be on YouTube's platform, it'll be on Rumble's platform. It'll be out there. I'm a tenacious SOB. Okay.
Yeah,
And
I wish all of our
I
viewers
will
could
make
be as
sure
tenacious.
that this is on some venue.
Yeah.
It'll be out here. It'll be out there. And if, like I said, if YouTube or Facebook wants to go ahead and try to stop us and shut us down, you know what? They can go ahead.
Hmm.
Because they're not the only how would you say, social media platform mogul
Venue.
out there.
They're not
not
the only
monsters.
venue. They're
They
not the
think they're
only venue.
monsters. They think
Yeah.
they're monsters. They think they're all that big, but they're not.
Yeah.
So
They're not the only venue.
no.
So in
And they won't
connection
stop
with
us.
this,
I won't
in
be stopped.
this connection, I am saving all of these programs,
Oh yeah.
and I intend to post them on Rumble.
Okay. Yeah, all this is going to be posted on Rumble too.
Yeah.
Do you have my Rumble account?
No, but I imagine you're very easy to find.
Well, it's Our Ranch, all one word. Our Ranch AGFC.
Yeah.
So that's my handle on Rumble.
Okay.
And look me up, and yours is.
Well, I haven't started a Rumble account.
Oh, you haven't yet.
No.
Okay.
I intend to.
Okay. Well, once you get one, go ahead and shoot me that link by email or however
Yep.
you feel safe enough to do that.
Well, I use I use Proton VPN. Proton has been acting very flaky the last couple of months, though, and quite often my
VPN shows you where you're at.
no, it just doesn't connect.
Oh, it won't connect.
And I know it's Proton because the problem is the same for both computers.
Hmm.
It comes and goes. I have an uptime about 70% of the time. I can use VPN, and 30% of the time I'm exposed because I can't even connect to it. So then I have to limit my my surfing to a certain extent.
Well, like you said, we're going on an hour and 38 minutes now, almost 2 hours, and we got a lot covered.
Yeah, well, that's what it shows on your clock. We started at 4. So it's almost 6.
Yes, I had to start the whole stream over
Yeah.
again because of I don't know what is up with Restream. That first stream, it just completely blocked me out, locked me out, and out of being able to text or chat and post anything into the chat, it wouldn't let me.
It sounds to me like Restream is overloaded because they've got too much new traffic coming in, being driven.
I don't know, but we got it done anyway.
Yes.
All right, Mystic. Well, listen, as always, Christy and I here, we appreciate you. And we really thank you for coming on to this venue and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and getting us all prepared for what is to come.
Yeah, prepping.
Prepping, yes.
Not for the short term.
Okay, my friend. Well, I want to thank you again, and we're going to wish you a good night, and we will adjourn again this next Sunday.
Very good.
And if you have, you have my email, right?
Yep.
Okay. If you need anything from me, you shoot me an email.
Okay.
And or you can always private message me on Messenger. And
I don't have Messenger.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
I have never used any social media because I've always known that it was a trap.
I know. It's my I have to trust that whether it's a trap or not, it's I got to have a venue. I got to have a method to get this word out.
Yeah, that's the idea, Jim. We just want to get you started on the researching. This was not meant to be an all-in education. It's more like a heads up, emergency alert, and a pointer in the direction.
Well, thank you, Jim. Yes, it's moving along fast, and I'll keep reaching. Great show, gentlemen. Well, thank you, and Mark Bostic, thank you for coming into the show, and I think that was about it out of our guests. We had Mark Bostic and we had Jim Skin. So again, thank you for coming on the show, gentlemen. And Mystic, we will see you next week. And you have yourself a great week. And let's keep each other in our prayers. And stay strong, my friend.
And their loved ones. Thank you.
All right. And until next weekend, we'll see you.
Okay. Good night.
Good night. Ah, wow. Here we are. An hour and 41 minutes. It just flew by. Again, I want to thank my friends Mark Bostic and Beyond Gem Skin. And I want to thank Mystic 22222 for coming on and just enlightening us and showering us with his wisdom and helping us to mentally and physically, spiritually be prepared for what is to come and be ready, because that's what God commanded us, just to be ready. So again, my friends, this is Brian and Christy from Our Ranch AGFC. Hoping that you have a great week. Hope you had a great weekend. And until next time, as we always say, God bless you. And y'all know the rest. Have a great night.